Myself and one took control of the third corps of the Russian army on the extreme left of the Borodino line. We had two relatively strong infantry brigades, Grenadier Brigade and some Cossacks, and crucially for me, some Uhlans and a brigade of Opolochenie to defend some woods and the right-hand flesh of the Borodino defences. And had the important task of protecting the left-hand fleshes from attack from very, very strong Polish and French forces who seemed to be aiming to come through the woodlands to the left of the fleshes and push into the rear that way. And so one and I decided we were heavily outnumbered, but we would do everything we could to make the French and their allies pay for every second, every inch they tried to capture by occupying the two woods with our two infantry brigades and putting the weakest troops, the Opolochenie, into their village to defend there with their lives. I had the large Uhlan brigade out here on the wing with some horse artillery and a battery of 6-pounders backing it up. One, meanwhile, had a load of Cossacks to chuck at any French marauding cavalry and try and hold them up as long as possible. And we waited with bated breath for the inevitable massive attack that was going to come our way from the dastardly French. As the game progressed, the engagement was fierce right across the whole length of the table. Well, apart from the middle, which seemed strangely quiet, although in the distance you could see both the French and the Russian Imperial Guard standing waiting to be deployed. Indeed, that was kind of the main decision, I think, for both CNCs, or seemed to be from my end of the battle, was when and where to deploy your guard. The French seem to have put most of their effort around sort of the middle left and middle right of the table, and largely left the actual centre of the table very lightly defended. Well, not defended because they were attacking, but didn't seem to be that many from where I was sitting, whereas the Russians were probably more evenly spread. Now, that probably played to the French advantage, because when they chose to punch through, they really went hard. And they already outnumbered the Russians quite considerably in the game in terms of quality and also quantity. So the Russians were grimly holding on for most of the game to try and protect. It was a little difficult to see what was going on right across the table, because obviously I was at one end, and so although I took the opportunity during quieter periods to walk down and see what was being played out, It was a little tricky to see at times, but there seemed to be fierce fighting for certainly the flèches. The Borodino main redoubt was attacked a couple of times and successfully beaten off, and Borodino itself fell towards the end of the first day, I believe, and then the French were trying to exploit that while the Russians were throwing troops at the attacking forces to try and slow them down. So there was a short pause in the fighting for us all to join a conference call with Professor Alex Makabredze. I probably butchered that. The campaign had transpired up to the point of the battle and why the battle itself was fought where it was, which was really good. And the main takeaway I think we as Russians took away was that apparently Kutuzov's intention was to give the French a smack in the mouth, and that's indeed what we tried to do, and I think fairly successfully. The fighting right across the battlefield was intense in the extreme, and on our side, on the left side, somehow I'd managed to hold the village with my Opolochenie. They'd beaten off one heavy attack in the woods. We were holding our own against probably twice as many enemy formations. The Cossacks were not faring so well against formed formed light cavalry that was streaming through the gap between the flèches and the wood. But on the whole, we were standing reasonably firm, and my Uhlans had great success riding down one battalion of French infantry and holding their own against another French cavalry formation. But it was an awful lot of French and Polish out there. Day two started in much the same manner as the day one had finished. We were grimly holding on to the Grand Redoubt. One of the flèches, well, two of the flèches were pretty much secure, but the third, the one closest to us, was being severely tested, and I think at this point it largely overrun. On my side, the Davout's corps pushed through the wood, and we were looking on the ropes somewhat, but I'm still somehow holding the village on the left and also my woods, although my troops were severely worn out. At that point, also, the guards had been committed. The French guard went pretty much straight down the middle of the table, backed up with their cavalry, and the cavalry caused mayhem through the Russian lines. The Russian guards didn't go face to face with them. They went more to the left. of our lines, and indeed their cavalry caused mayhem, and their infantry worked well. But I think on the whole, the French Guard seemed to get the better of it. Certainly their cavalry was devastating. So as the game progressed into the second day, it was very clear that the weight of numbers that the French and their allies were able to bring to bear was slowly grinding its way through the Russian positions. The small one of the flèches had fallen. The other one was under serious threat. The Borodino had long ago fallen, and French were pouring round their left wing, the Russian right wing. On our side of the table, the village finally fell, as did my wood. Just literally, my brigade just ran out of men. Everything was completely exhausted. The Lancers were still there with a couple of casualties still left on there. They were large units, so I think they were on about 13 by this stage of the game. So they probably could try one more charge, but they were more of a sort of a threat than a genuine worry for the French. And on my right, one had finally succumbed, and one of his brigades was in full flight. The Cossacks had been driven off tests constantly to keep them on the table, and it was a grim old thing. But we had certainly smacked the French in the mouth, as the professor had told us we needed to do. That was pretty much the end of the game. We finished around about 2:30, having started at 9 o'clock that morning, and previous day 9 until about I think it was about 6 we finished. So it was quite a long series of game, and quite easy to play through because different areas of the table were running at different speeds, so to speak, but thoroughly enjoyable. So I'll leave it for Mr. Dave Brown to explain what happened in the end and try and explain how Napoleon had managed to just about carry the day, but Kutuzov had certainly given him a serious kick in the mouth, which was the end of the day was the main objective. So, hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did.
This flank, my left. We'll just hear from both opposing generals, and then we'll move down to the embarrassment in the Russian centre. Then we'll move down. Sorry, Del. See you, Del. So we'll start with Doug, Andy, and Mr. Callan. Yep. Where's Callan?
He's a public speaker. He's very keen to say something.
So a quick summary from you, and then we'll get John and Alex can obviously chip in.
They on the first day attacked Borodino against the Russians, took Borodino. To be fair, the Russians actually withdrew rather than be evicted to fight on the other bank.
Like Moscow all over again.
We pushed them across the river. It's taken all day to attack, but they've broken their brigades. The cavalry's just run down and dispersed another regiment. I had to take the Brunswickers round by the ford and bring them up to sit on Eugene's left. It is fair to say that Ney is pushing back all the Russians on this side of the table.
No.
John and Alex, anything to add to that?
I wouldn't disagree with it, except to say that
it did take them all day. So what's Ney been doing? So our job was purely one division to hold up 2.
Yeah.
So our normal,
three ADCs against 11 or 12 usually.
So basically, your commander-in-chief has let down a bit.
Well, our job was
we've given an awful lot of casualties.
Yeah, really saying it's Fabian Okay, Stanbridge, your gallant holding centre.
We hold the redoubt,
Hey!
and the French never look like taking it.
There we go.
Mr. Calvin, shake yourself.
I gave it the 2 assaults I was supposed to and left it at that.
Okay, we'll move rapidly on. So then we'll move over to Dell. And where's Mark Freeth?
Oh, I'm hiding.
Mark Freeth, right.
You're going to talk about the old guard again, aren't you?
So, Mark, take us through how your attack with the guard, the precious guard,
That's a loose term.
developed. So go on, let's know.
We went in and gave them hell. Trouble is, they brought a big bucket full of hell as well.
Brought it back.
And brought it back, yes. So we decided, discretion being the better part of valour, we'll sit over here and watch the fight from afar. And mind you, the middle guard and the young guard did all the fighting and the dirty work.
So the middle guard and the young guard did what to Dell?
No, they did nothing. The cavalry did everything. The cavalry just went right through me. I was holding up until they turned up. Basically, when they turned up, we just couldn't stop them.
It was all over.
The only thing that can stop them, I believe, is the cavalry from the guard cavalry,
frittered away over there.
which Chris didn't give us.
So basically,
So we're not blaming anybody apart from Chris.
so
Yeah, but we held up for about a day and a half, and then he just rolled over.
then collapsed. Yeah. So there's a big hole here in the centre. Okay, if we move to Semyonovskaya and over to this side, so we've got Ed and Dom and the good Mr. Cornwall. So Chris, from your
Both
side.
sides, cavalry, fought to a standstill, destroyed, ineffective. Russian cavalry going to be too late.
So the Russian, so actually Dom.
Both sides on the front line.
Dom was incredible in the town.
We'll leave it at that.
Enough said.
So Dom pushed the old guard.
Who's counting?
Davout's flank secure.
I think you had. Yeah, there's no way that was going to be retaken. So that was.
Yeah. The guard cavalry were moving around to try and shore up the flank, probably too slow. The guard infantry joining.
Okay, you've done very well. Right, over here. So we got over here. We've got Jeff and probably luckiest man of the match, Neil.
Well, I've only got 2 words to say. Davout who?
We advanced manfully against 4 12-pounder batteries in the fleshes, and look, the Russians have abandoned
See,
them.
French make it up. 2 12-pounder batteries in the fletches. And then, sorry, 2 12-pounder batteries, neither of which were in a fletch.
Done very well.
It
Done very
felt
well.
like 12-pounders when you're on the carrier.
Yeah, it's a very
We're
good
stuck
loss
in there,
of-
we're stuck in there.
That's a superb defence.
We essentially
Mr.
prepared the way for the
Marshall,
Germans.
Mr. Marshall, how did you do down
Yeah,
there?
we cleared out the woods, and then it took a bit longer to get out of the woods. But we're out of the woods now, and yes.
And then finally, we have Mr. Gane. How did your Saxons with Gary Saxons do?
My cavalry charged through the centre, absolutely destroyed his. They're on the other board even.
On the other board?
Yeah, it's been sensational. We've
that's
taken
Ed's
the
fault.
flèche, we're fully formed here, we're ready to storm through and roll up the whole centre.
So they're basically like chaps sitting around the goal, waiting, you know, until the
Yeah,
goal
Goal hangers. Yeah.
If you're old enough to remember, it's the Malcolm McDonald.
And then finally, we've got Simon. How did you do down there? Perhaps we could
We're
just
still
keep
holding
that very
We're
quick.
still holding the majority of the fletches.
We
very
met
well.
very stiff resistance.
From
but
Dom.
Yeah.
we eventually
And Juan.
took the woods and secured the village.
Eventually.
Well, Dom, how did you feel that you defended?
I think if I'd had another brigade of Opolochenie, I would have held all week. That's all I'm going to say.
You did very well. Okay, so Phil, over to you. Thank you very much. Anything else from yourself?
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Cheers for having as well, Dave. Been very much appreciated, and thank you, Chris, for helping as well. It's been brilliant.